Hi, good morning, everybody. I hope we're on some back roads. I don't know what the internet signal's like. We didn't check yet. We figured we'd give everybody an update at least. The storm appears to have turned a little bit more northeast. Actually, not a little bit more, like maybe a lot more. We'll see if it's a jog or not, but it definitely appears that Idalia has made a little bit more of a turn here at the last second northeast radar right now. Oh my God, this thing is absolutely still intensifying. Lightning inside the eye of a hurricane usually means it's strengthening, and it's on final approach. So this thing makes a little northeast turn. This means a lot because that means folks a little bit more towards Gainesville area. The eastern side of that edge that you've been looking at, you're going to get a little bit more hurricane force winds. We were already seeing the last 11 o'clock update where they're expecting hurricane winds all the way to the Georgia-South Carolina line, and that's something that you see with developing hurricanes at landfall. They do not weaken very fast, and this thing's moving very fast, so they don't have a chance to weaken. So um, we're going to see, and that's kind of why I wanted to go live. I don't even, we got any internet? Are we streaming? I don't even know. Yeah, there is a ton of debris on the roads already. So we took a couple-hour nap. We just paid the room by the hour. We stayed there 2 hours. It was $100 an hour, but it felt good. It was the best 2 hours sleep I ever had. Um, but we're way away from the main bands here, so they've already had a lot of limbs down, trees down. This is what one of the biggest concerns we're talking to Kevin Guthrie the other night was this. Look at this area. I mean, I don't know if you can really see it, but there are trees everywhere in this part of Florida. Thick oaks, pines, lots of brush, lots of debris, and that's one of the biggest threats of this system is going to be the amount of power that is down all these little back roads and just trees everywhere. So we're already starting to see it. I've only had to dodge a couple big limbs so far, but we're making our run to a little bit north of Crystal River, and then we're going to decide, where we want to go. The surge is already starting to show up at Cedar Key, and we're going to get a new update here pretty soon. It looks like it might have already been a Category 4. The lightning around the storm is intense. Intense banding still continues. And if it is indeed making that last second east turn, it's kind of following that Ian Charlie Irma. It just went a little bit deeper before it made that turn. It picked up forward speed last night quite a bit. We'll have to see if this is just a little wobble or they're going to have to adjust the track a little bit here at the last second. So it doesn't appear it's going any more west, put it to you that way. If anything, it might have went a little bit east. And so just keep an eye on it, especially if you're in that, it's a smaller eye. It's kind of reminiscent of Charlie. So the most intense winds are more close to the eye on this system. We don't have those wide stretching winds that Ian went through an eye wall replacement. Now, who's to say this one could too? We're still about 3 or 4 hours away from landfall. I don't know how quick these things sometimes can do an eye wall replacement, but right now the eye is tight, meaning that the core, the strongest winds are not that widespread. So you really want to pay attention to that radar if you decided to stay, to ride this out, and that'll tell you who's going to get the worst of it. Again, it looks like it's a lot heavier on the west side. I shared those FAS mode, a couple models I shared earlier today, showing heavier concentration of storms on the northwestern side, and it's looking that way. There's a lot more moisture and rains falling on the north and the east side of our system currently. So it's kind of weird. It looks pretty dry on the east side, pretty wet on the west side. We go straight. Yep. So we'll see if those rains wrap around. But again, this is kind of reminiscent of what we saw with Ian. Was a heavier rain concentration on the northwest side, and of course the big winds came in more typically on the east side. But anyway, we're watching it. I'm sure we're going to lose internet. I don't even know if we did now or not. But we'll be live throughout this journey, off and on. So stay tuned. We're gonna find a spot. We might end up in Perry. Perry is a town on US 19 that you drive through when you're heading north, and that's where our own musician is from, Mr. Andy Simmons. It's his hometown, the one that sings all of our great Mike's Weather Page songs. So, not too sure what's going on in the peninsula. I had the weather station on, Fox Weather, just a second ago. They have a lot of correspondence throughout Clearwater. They're not showing surge too much yet, but now the storm's on the other side of the bay. We're starting to see those bands of rains rotating in. So this will be the curious um, from here on out with the surge on the west central parts of Tampa Bay area, because these bands are expected to kind of follow Idalia throughout the day, and we're going to have a constant flow of storms in off the Gulf of Mexico towards the west central peninsula there. So it's not over for you. Just because the storm goes to the north and to the northeast, it's still going to be bringing in a lot of storms to the south. Um, and again, this thing is new advisories coming out soon, about 30, 40 minutes. They were expecting hurricanes still to be overland at the South Carolina-Georgia border, which indicates this thing is not going to slow down. That means, a lot more action inland, and a lot of folks that haven't seen a hurricane probably maybe in their lifetime, these trees, where we're at now, I mean, totally different landscape than what you saw, with Ian down south. I mean, we're in a different part of Florida here that's a lot more wooded, a lot more forest. Uh, Actually, there's a lot of, Swanee River, a lot of basins, and there's just a lot of more moisture up here. So, they're expecting double digits rain, and it's hopefully that doesn't happen. But the backside of this storm starts to turn off northeast. The backside of the storm, that's when the rains are going to come. So we're going to have the wind first, big rain second for some folks as this thing moves on out of here. So we're riding along uh, with Phil here, and we did hit the jackpot that we found a hotel room that had 2 beds in it. Last time we were in Houston together, we had to get a Motel 6 that had 1 bed. 1 bed. But the damn air conditioner had to be broke. I never did ask you that. You think it was hot? Yeah, it was pretty warm outside. And what?
It's done. There's like a church right up there.
Oh, that was our gas station last night. Yeah, we were on mainly the reason we went back to Ocala was we couldn't find gas, and I have 15 gallons extra gas in the back, but we decided to head inland. Hey, there's no hotel rooms, obviously. Everybody's evacuating, but there was no gas. We must have stopped at 20 stations at least, and everybody was following me. This is like 11 o'clock midnight. Everybody was looking for gas last night, so we ended up having to go on the other side of Interstate 75, and now I got a good 7/8 tank, good to go, and 15 gallons extra. So I'm not too worried about that. I just didn't want to start out today with less than a half a tank. Have to get into the reserves, but these are going to be the roads that are going to be probably unpassable. All these trees, that there's going to be a lot of road closures. On my website, on the very, very top, right under where it says Idalia, I do have something that says it's 511, the website, but I think I just put on there Florida traffic. So it's a good site. You can go on there, Florida traffic, and it'll tell you all the roads, the closures, and any traffic delays that might be happening right now. Radar. So the radar is working good. I'm looking at radar scope. I'm glad we left when we did, because this road is going to be. Was it Cuomo? Is his name Cuomo? Dan Abrams. Is that his name?
Dan Abrams.
Yesterday we were at Crystal River. Crystal River was a fun little stop last night. We had a whole bunch of people come by and say hey to us, which was really nice. And then some of the local sheriffs came by that actually followed me on TikTok. And met somebody that followed me on Instagram, and met a sheriff that doesn't even go on social media, but I still gave him a koozie anyways. um, it was ironic. The one sheriff that followed me has got family in Tampa, so he goes to Tampa Bay Brewing Company all the time. So he was a big Reef Donkey fan. I'm like, yeah. He said he's got a fridge full of the gourds gone wild that he couldn't wait to drink when he got off shift. Got a 3 month at home, and he wasn't looking forward to working all night with mama and the new baby at home, but they're dedicated. The only difference about this road than with Ian is we can see the pavement. I feel a little safer. On our trip with Ian down on River Road down by Venice when we were leaving Hurricane Ian, of course, this road that very similar to that road was all underwater, and that was a hairy couple of hours as we tried to get home. Whew. So no one knows what to expect. There's a ton of storm chasers up here. There's a ton of media. You know, the theme of this storm so far to me has been the nonchalant approach, I guess to say. I talked to locals, and they totally agree that this storm there hasn't been much anticipation like other storms. It seems like I think there's a psychological aspect to it. Hurricane, I call it hurricane hangover. Uh, People last year just dealt with Ian and Nicole, and I don't know. I just don't. I just get the feeling that it was like, oh well, and I know there's a lot of folks that stayed behind in this area. A little bit west of us, that area's never even had a hurricane, so a lot of them probably think it's nothing. But if that storm surge, the only positive of anything, and it's not anything against the ones that live here. It's just it is hit. The surge at least is hitting an area that's a lot of marsh and not a lot of population. The winds are going to be intense for a lot of folks, especially as it moves inland. We're liable to see 100-mile-an-hour winds way inland, and those are real stories of this type of a hurricane where people inland get almost the same effects as somebody on the coast. I mean,
It's a good laptop work science.
all right. So good morning, everybody. We are just north of Crystal River, watching radar and seeing a very strong developing eye that appears to be jogging northeast now, but tons of lightning ongoing. A sign that the storm is developing. I'm friends with some hurricane hunters, and they talk a lot about lightning in an eye and how it's developing and convection, growing, and the last minute strengthening. I mean, this the last report. This thing was 940 something pressure, and I'm sure we just got another one at 4 o'clock.
941.
941, really?
Yeah.
Holy crap! So pressure's down to 941. And put that in relation, I think Ian was in the 930s when it made landfall for pressure. Sometimes the winds don't catch up. But that was a 3 millibar drop in 1 hour from the last update. So they asked me like, what?
Talk to the right here.
Um, the news asks, what is your one concern? Oh, with this storm, and I think concern wise, I think it's the inland folks past Interstate 10 that are going to be dealing with a hurricane that probably never dreamed that they would be dealing with a hurricane. Damages, that's trees down, power down, damaged roofs, debris. cord on the road or something. I think we just saw our first power line down. How many miles we got?
19, like a mile away.
All right. How far south is Crystal River?
Maybe 10 miles south, or we can show way.
All right, I'm gonna stop and do an update. I'm gonna do the 4 o'clock update. All right, so make sure you tune right here. Tell all your friends and family, man. We're gonna try to stream. I want to get, we got a great group of people who are weather forecasting up to a storm, but looking down the road. I mean, this is my hobby. I mean, I grew up around the NASCAR world. There's danger jumping in a NASCAR every weekend. So, for my position, it's a whole lot different than most storm chasers. Because we're friends with Florida Division of Emergency Management. We're friends with FEMA, friends with EOC. We're friends with a lot of our supporters are on the ground now. Of course, all of our followers and fans that actually live around here has always been a big part of what we do. When I went to Texas last week, it was more of a trial run for this week, to tell you the truth. If you remember, I put it like almost 10 days ago. There was going to that isn't here we are. Unbelievable, right? So, but being in Texas last week, Corpus Christi here. I'm from Arkansas or Arkansas. I always said Arkansas. Arkansas. Folks down there in Galveston, Brownsville, all these little areas. So every time we do one of these little adventures, we run across these small towns. So many of y'all live in and can relate to. Like we're driving on US 19 now. You know how many times over the years I grew up driving on US 19. I mean, I've been on this with there's a rest stop with the train. You know what I'm talking about. The and I've always kind of thought like, what would it be like if this area ever got a hurricane? There's so many small towns, there's so many trees, locals. You wonder, what would it be like? Unfortunately, they're gonna find out. Talking to Kevin Guthrie, a couple things I picked up on I didn't really even think about. The storm response and planning is incredible. So there's 20,000 plus linemen, right? 20,000. I think I saw this morning that there might be 30,000 linemen from around the country lined up. They have to get them ready. They're staged all across the state. As soon as the storm passes, they head in. They brought in airboats, dozens of airboats for water rescues, just in case. It's hard to water rescue folks when there's so many trees here. Right? They normally drop down the cage or whatever they call it to pick you up out. With these water rescues, you've seen the Coast Guard do right over the years. They drop down their cage with usually another Coast Guard on there, but they can't do that when there's trees, right? So they have airboats. They're actually planning on so much rain possibly in some areas. They're going to have to use airboats to help rescue people. I mean, these are real life probabilities that we're going to see in just less than 12 hours for a lot of folks. We have a lot of coastal towns right there along the waterway that are going to be dealing with 10 to 15 to 16. I think they got 16-foot surge estimated now, maybe more. That could be more surge than what Fort Myers Beach saw with Ian. You see those videos from Ian and what the storm surge was there. To think we're seeing a repeat of that, it's just incredible. All right, so we're gonna get to some civilization here. I can't believe it's still streaming. That's amazing. But tune in right here. We'll be back soon. We'll do a couple posts here. We're gonna pull off side road to get a game plan where we're going. But we'll be streaming all day, so we'll see you for the next update. All right.